Hello and welcome. I am Raziel, and apart from playing Warhammer and tabletop games, I also play video games. There's a shocker for you. I'm a complete nerd. So, what about today's video? Now, today's video is based on Warhammer 40k video games, and one of the most interesting things about it is there is a growth between the two, which you can kind of compare both of them to and see how they've evolved over time. Now, I've said plenty of times I collect rulebooks. I collect rulebooks because I do enjoy seeing the growth of games and how they evolve over time. Models, rules, art, all of that. And there is no difference with video games. I'm a big retro gamer. I play modern games too. I love seeing how games evolve and grow and change over time from type of controls to graphics. And again, we can compare this with what tabletop games, with the way they play, how sometimes they're simplified, how models have are better looking now. So yeah, there is these comparisons, and I want to talk about the different Warhammer 40k games from the first to, let's say, the latest that are out. So we'll stop at Rogue Trader, which is out next month. Yes, I know Space Marine 2 is coming out, and as is Speed Freaks, but I'm going to stop there because I think that's a good jumping off point. Like I said, it's games that are out now, and things that we can be excited about. Now, the first real game was kind of Space Crusade in 1992. Now, Space Crusade was actually kind of like a side project, a side game. It wasn't really a Games Workshop game per se. It was made by Milton Bradley. But, they had their first game by Gremlin Interactive, and that came out on the Atari ST, Commodore 64, back in 1992, as well as the Amstrad Spectrum, ZX Spectrum, and then MS-DOS, for those who remember what MS-DOS is. Now, the first proper 40k game was Space Hulk in 1993. Now, 1993 was an interesting year anyway, and this again came out on MS-DOS, Amiga, and NEC PC 801. It was a tactical shooter, which was completely different from Space Crusade. It was based on the game, tabletop game. This was a first-person tactical shooter. And then in 1992, it came out on the PlayStation, the 3DO, and Sega Saturn, as well as Windows. Now, it was a really interesting game because it was quite a scary game as well. And at the time, first-person shooters were getting really popular. I mean, not as popular as they are now, but they were getting their first proper console releases with things like Turok, GoldenEye, Quake came out as well, and Doom. So you were getting proper shooters, and to have this to give it a more tactical edge to it, rather than just Gene Stealer shoot, you had to think about what you were doing and what you're doing with your Terminators and everything else. It was a fantastic game, and it really broke off from the norm. I love it. I think it's great. And then you got into... Then they kind of went back to more of its roots in 1997 with Final Liberation, and which is basically it's an epic game based on the epic game where you use Titans and Knights, and it came out in 1997. It was a turn-based game, and I enjoy it. I think it's fantastic. But if you are you can play it today. It's on GOG, but if you do need to modify it first to play it on a modern system. It can be quite finicky. And then you got the original Chaos Gate, which of course got remade. Was it last year? This is another fun game, another turn-based tactical game, and again, I think this one's quite enjoyable. It's nice to see these games back then, and when you compare them to the models of the time, they were very much alike. You can see what they did and how they were inspired from the tabletop to make them onto the computer. And then you had Rights of War. Rights of War is one of my favourite because you play as the Eldar, and that's all I'm going to say. I love the Eldar, I really do, and I've loved them since I was little, and I still play an Eldar army now. It's not as big as I want it to be, but I do play as the more skirmish force. And that's why I like this Rights of War so much. And that's the first proper turn-based strategy, and more, based on the wars and massed armies, which really fits the 40k vibe, given that we build massive armies and fight with them, and having it done on a PC was really good. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was fantastic. Now, after that, we had a 4-year break, so we had one for each year from 97, 98, 99, and then we had a 4-year period where we didn't get a game, and that was with Fire Warrior, and that came out on Windows and PlayStation 2. That was a Tau game where you played as a Tau Fire Warrior. I really enjoy it. It does get a lot of stick, and I can see why there's a lot of faults with it and why people don't like it. And yeah, as a fan of 40k, you would enjoy this. But what's also interesting, this kind of proves the point that Sony and the PlayStation has had a 40k game for every generation. That is not something that Xbox can say, and something Nintendo definitely cannot say, because they didn't really get a proper 40k game until the DS, where already we're on 10 years after the first game, and PlayStation's had its second console release. And then, of course, in 2004, it was the biggest year for 40k gaming at the time. Dawn of War got released, and we were introduced to the Blood Ravens. It was when a fantastic story was added, and it is still good to read today. The novels by C.S. Gottlieb, not so much, but the game was fantastic, and it was a real-time strategy game, and it added so much more, and it's still really playable today. This is one of the few games I've never had issues on modern systems playing. And my only issue is that you only play as the Blood Ravens, but they fixed that with the next game, well, the first expansion, and then kind of the next 2 games expansions. I'll get to that in a second. And that was with Winter Assault. Winter Assault, it brought even more to the table because you play as the Imperial Guard, the Eldar, Chaos, and the Orcs. So you could play the other side, the evil side of the story. Something that wasn't common in games then, and still not see a lot nowadays. I mean, the last big time we saw you could play the bad guys was New Vegas, and that was almost 15 years ago. Okay, Fallout 4 again, you could play as the Institute. Then Space Hulk came out on the N-Gage. The N-Gage was we can literally say this is the first mobile game in the list. So anyway, before we go on, we're going to talk about Dark Crusade and Soulstorm. Dark Crusade and Soulstorm are expansions to Dawn of War, but not at the same time. And this is something I've only seen Rockstar do, and it's something I think more companies should do. What they've done is they made a game which expands a previous game, and it's technically expansion, but you don't need the original game to play it. And I think that's really fun and really good. And you had more armies added in Dark Crusade. That was the Tau and the Necrons. And then in Soulstorm you had the Sisters of Battle and the Dark Eldar added. And it just added so much to it. And they are fun games to play, and they're really enjoyable. And it's worth getting the games prior, because then you can use all the armies. If you just get Soulstorm or Dark Crusade, you can only use the new armies in the games. And again, during this time of 2006, we get another mobile game, technically, with an N-Gage. And then, after 1 year after Soulstorm, we had Dawn of War 2. And honestly, I would say this was the kind of a downtread from... This is when it started getting bad. I don't like Dawn of War 2. It's not a game I enjoy. It's not really a real-time strategy game. It's more of a XCOM game. If I went into with that, there's no base building. It's just squad combat. I don't like it. But see, during the 2000s, from 2003 to all the way to 2011, there was a brand new game every year. And I say new games. Technically, most of them were expansions. But we had the PlayStation Portable, had Squad Command with Nintendo DS. This was a fun game where it was more of a turn-based strategy like XCOM, and you got around, you leveled up your army, your squad, and you went around basically fighting everyone. You were Ultramarines. I personally preferred it on the PSP over the Nintendo DS. And then you had expansions for Dawn of War 2, Chaos Rising and Retribution. And then you had Kill Team, which I'm not a fan of. And then, of course, this all ended this 10-year streak with Space Marine. And honestly, if you're going to take a break, there's a game to take a break after. Space Marine is one of the favourite top games people talk about. And of course, everyone's excited about Space Marine 2 coming out. I love it. I think it was one of the best shooters ever. However, as a game reviewer, because I did review games for like 5 years, I would say it's better than mediocre as a shooter. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. but it is a game I've played 100 times with different people. Gears of War does it better, you know. But yeah, Space Marine's a fantastic game. I love it. I enjoy it. I love the story, and I wish we actually had a proper sequel. I can't see them actually continuing the story. Then we had Space Hulk in 2013. Now this is when, yeah, we had a lot of mobile games come out for, yeah, about another 10 years of nothing but really shovelware mobile games. And it started with Space Hulk. And this was like a direct port of the tabletop game. And yeah, none of these are really good. And I know some people like them. And right, if you like them, that's you, right? Good for you. If you like them, play them, have fun. Okay? I see these for what they are. They are cheap shovelware games made to make quick bucks. They're full of ones I played were full of microtransactions. Even the card game was like full of them, and I hate microtransactions. Okay. Legacy of Dawn isn't really a game. It's more of a, what is it, interactive novel sort of thing. But yeah, loads of these, and I'm just gonna skip over this entire period because they're all really bad. Eisenhorn Xenos though is an interesting part. When I was reviewing games, this was the first 40k game I got to review, and I got a review code for. I played it and I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice fun RPG. It had its bugs, a lot of them, but yeah, I enjoyed it. So we did end up breaking this kind of with Battlefleet Gothic Armada by Focus Home Interactive. This was the first time Focus Home Interactive published a game, 40k game. And of course, we see this a lot now because they pretty much got the license to do all of them. And yeah, this game's fantastic. And where it says it's based on it, it's really fun. I enjoy it. It looks great. And honestly, the fact that this is almost a 10-year-old game and people are still playing it, and Games Workshop haven't taken the hint of making Battlefleet Gothic for the tabletop again is beyond me. But yeah, absolutely fun game. There is a mobile version. It's bad. Then you had Eternal Crusade. That's so bad. It was so awful. You needed a top-end computer to play it at the time, which is quite ironic to see what you needed. And it was just awful. And then we get to Space Hulk for Deathwing. Now, Space Hulk Deathwing I actually enjoy, and this is on PlayStation 4. Once again, showing we're getting another PlayStation is getting another 40k game where Nintendo and Xbox are missing out. So that's every single console up to this point, except the PlayStation 3, has had a Warhammer 40k exclusive. And I enjoy this game. It's a game I play quite a bit when I get the chance. One is Dark Angels, and I like playing as Dark Angels. You play as a Terminator, and it's basic mindless shooter. It's not real tactical. It's more like Left 4 Dead, and I enjoy it. I really do. And then after that, this was in 2017, we had Dawn of War 3. Yeah. What can I say about this? It's worse than Dawn of War 2. And I have no love for Dawn of War 2. This was absolutely appalling, and it killed the Dawn of War series. Which is a shame, really, to be honest with you. I would have liked to see him actually do something with it. But, you know. And then we had another first-person shooter, a real-time strategy, and then we got a Sanctus Reach, which I've not played. I've got to say, I've not played that. And then we've had another change with Inquisitor Martyr. Inquisitor Martyr, I love. I love this game. It's a, what is it? More like a dungeon crawler. And yeah, I really enjoyed clearing this game. I cleared it so many times, and I'll probably play it again. And so we had Gladius Relics. And we had some more Windows mobile games. Space Hulk Tactics, which came out on the PS Vita as well. This was more directly linked to the actual game, which was very much a version of a tabletop game, rather than have its own game like the previous tactical shooter. Again, we've seen this on PlayStation 4 and PSP Vita. So Sony has had a lot of games. And then we had the second Nintendo game with Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. A game I'm not a fan of. It's a turn-based RPG. It's not too bad. I just don't like it. You had a combat card game, which is not too bad. Which is weird because that game's like 20 years after combat cards stopped. So yeah, bringing that one out again was a bit weird. Then that's it. Then you had Dagger Squadron, some more games. Oculus Quest, Battle System. Anyway, then we come to latest ones, which is Hired Gun, a first-person shooter. So yeah, I've got to say, there has been so many games for 40k, and it's really shown the whole side of Games Workshop and their growth in the industry, and you can compare it to video games and how that's grown. And I just realised Dark Tide's not coming out on PlayStation. Like, that's the first time. So it's taken almost 30 years for a game not to be on a PlayStation console. And it's just really cool, to be honest with you. It's taken that long. But like you said, we can really see this growth of the games between them, with a tabletop and the video games. And I think it's fantastic. And this is just me bambling on because it's a Saturday. I've got to do a video for Saturday. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. Anyway, what games did you like? What games did you enjoy playing? And what games are you looking forward to? So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. So now there is a link to C-Stick, which is something I'm helping promote, which is a arcade pop-up on the 25th and 26th of November in the Pokemon TCG, Bath TCG shop. Fantastic, guys. Check it out. £5 for a day, £8 for the weekend. So yeah, check that out. There is Forbidden Planet as well, comics, plushies, everything else. So if you're going to go to that, you're probably going to go to this. And then there is, of course, Wayland Games for up to 20% off your Warhammer and free delivery after £20. And there is my merchandise, my comics, my t-shirts, etc., everything else. That's down below. And finally, merchandise, Patreon. But as always, treat yourself to something nice before you just give me money. I always rather do that than that. Okay, we both win. It's supporting the channel either way. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.